opening up. Here we go. Woohoo! Ready to roll. Okay, here we go.
Woohoo!
Whee! Having fun already. Yes. All right.
Welcome, welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. We got some cool pictures on the background. I like these backgrounds people are putting up. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Ooh, impressive. Nice.
Welcome, welcome. Desi, you want to shout out to anybody?
Oh my gosh, look at, I do. So I just saw that Amy has just registered and has become a Coffee Connection participant. So I wanted to say hello, but Jim and Carolyn, Jennifer, oh my gosh, Jennifer, we haven't seen you for a while. Look at your beautiful
I know. I'm sorry,
too.
I've been traveling so much.
Awesome. You have, but I know you're gearing up for commercial UAV.
Yes, ma'am, we are. Only, what, 3 weeks away now?
Oh my gosh. Is it that
I
close?
know. Yeah.
Right
Oh,
around
we'll
the
be back.
In a
corner.
full month, it'll be over.
We're leaving on Thursday for the Bayou. We're going to be working on a documentary.
What?
Fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that you got that.
Yes.
Nice.
We're going back.
Wonderful.
We're going back later this week. We're going to be there for a week, and then we've got a second trip that we need to do for another area, probably in September. So
Fantastic. I just came from the Bayou.
yeah.
Making my way back now. Awesome. That's fantastic. Awesome.
Get that song out of my head. Born on the Bayou. Come on. Great song though, right?
I listen. Is that a Creedence song? Is that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that one. Okay, got it. I'm not the best with all the titles and everything. I just, dance.
Flanzy, hello. Thank you for
Hi,
joining
Desi.
us. Nice.
How are you? I'm literally at
Wonderful.
work and I have to go into a meeting at work.
Okay. Well, we won't be too loud then.
Well-
Okay, no guarantees there. Yeah, we will.
Yeah, no way.
Awesome.
How long does the on coffee one go?
Hour.
Is it an hour?
Yes, it usually goes for an hour, and I don't know if my internet is wonky, but you kind of broke up a little bit right there.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering how long it would be because my
Okay.
meeting is about an hour as well.
Okay, well, we usually go for about an hour also. We like to give it a few minutes and let people get logged in because I know they're not just setting their clock to our timer here. And so we like to give it a few minutes and let people log in, and then we'll segue over to our guest speaker. But I actually have a couple of announcements, super exciting things happening. And so I can't wait to share. First, let's kick it off with the conversation that we actually already started. So tell me this, throw it into the chat. Who's going to commercial UAV, right? Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Super exciting. I don't know if you caught it, but I know SMG has like several workshops that they're doing, right, Jennifer?
Yes, ma'am, we are. So we've got the outdoor flying demonstrations on Tuesday, which is basically the opening of Commercial UAV Expo. We're not really running that one. We coordinate really deeply with Diversified Communications, who puts on the entire conference. And we're just kind of boots on the ground, helping make sure that everything is safe and exciting. We try to bring some excitement to the demonstration. So that's kind of our role in that one. And then on Wednesday, we're doing a free mapping at night forensic scenario. So we'll be doing that one right at the Caesars Forums. And on, I think it's Thursday, we're doing our night flight class, which is a 4-hour in classroom. And then we'll take you out to these bad boys and have you fly at night in the field.
Who knows about that?
Jen? They're still out there?
They are, yes,
are.
yes. In fact, they, I don't know, Linda, do you know if they've actually repainted them or it's
They-
still to come?
Yeah, well, I think it was scheduled just like within the last, it was supposed to be done just within the last week or two. They had some
That's what I
issues with
thought.
graffiti out there. And so I know it's awful,
It's so bad.
but they were scheduled to be repainted. I haven't been out there yet, so I don't know if they actually did it, but
Yeah, I haven't been
it
out
was
either,
scheduled to be
so
done. So it should be in good shape by the time we're out there.
I can't wait. Yeah, it'll be
I'd like to give
wonderful.
a shout out for SMG because all their demos were fabulous. I was there last year. Great demo. It was just just the way, as far as just a business and a team, like we could all learn something because they run so great as a team. Everybody has their place. They know what they're doing. They communicate well. That was wonderful to see. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then when we went out to the, night flight, yeah, you're allowed to fly at night, you don't require waivers anymore, but that night flight there were so many things that you don't realize, well, I didn't, I can only speak for myself, that I didn't realize, and I flew great. I mean, I've had a lot of practice skills and I was encouraged by Linda because I was the first one to volunteer to be on the experience team, and then I went first. And Linda had said to me, Kim, you really can fly great. And at nighttime, it's totally different because it's so far away and you can't see. So if you can jump on that night flight, it's a really great course. Carolyn did it. And it's just another feather in your cap. So when that opportunity comes around, you definitely can say yes with some experience instead of winging it, because you don't want to wing it on night flight. Right?
True story. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Very nice words. They do a great job.
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
they do. So,
Okay, so let's get started. We have our spotlight speaker is Niles, and I'm super excited to introduce him. I met Niles through a friend of a friend, and his company was coming into the Philadelphia area, and we ended up having a conversation. And so when I started thinking about, speakers, he's always been on my mind. So in case you don't know who Niles is, he's the CEO of Verge Aero, and he has over 30 years experience as a serial entrepreneur, our kind of guy, right? In the entertainment and displays, he's a co-founder and serves as the CEO of both Element Labs and Flying Pig Systems, two entertainment technology companies widely recognized for their innovation and pioneering products. Love those words, Niles. And then let's see. So he's been on America's Got Talent. Did anybody see him on America's Got Talent?
oh, yes.
He's on America's Got Talent with his team. I looked that up. That was great. He is a FAA certified private pilot and commercial drone operator. And right now he's also had clients such as the Rolling Stones, Coldplay, to the Olympic opening ceremonies. So without further ado, because I know you guys are super excited, Niles, take the floor. It's all yours.
Well, thank you. It's nice to meet everybody here, and it's fun to participate in this. So yeah, I mean, I finished school and then starting companies, and they were all in kind of the entertainment technology space. I made like lighting consoles originally, and then big LED video displays. And then I thought I was really done with entertainment. I was sick of doing gigs and concerts and all of this stuff. And about 10 years ago, I got inspired by some TED videos I saw of professors flying drones and formations and doing cool things. And I'm not an engineer, but I felt like, oh my God, I need to go back to school and become an engineer so I can make this happen. And it was a bit like, the line I use, it's a bit like The Godfather. I feel like Michael Corleone. It's like every time I try and get back or get out, they pull me back in, right? So I've gotten sucked back into entertainment now doing drones. And it's been kind of crazy. We are now 5.5 years into this. I started with my team way back when. I found these three young engineers in Philadelphia, and we decided to join forces and start this company. And my directive to them was, let's get this right from first principles and make a proper system and not just kind of wing it. And as a result, our 1-year R&D program became a 3-year R&D program. And then, of course, just as we're ready to start commercializing, coronavirus hits. And there probably was no worse business to be in than entertainment. Because in entertainment, there's no takeout, right? There's no way, no halfway house. I mean, either gigs are happening or they're not, and everything's shut down. So, you know, we hunkered down. Fortunately, we were a pretty low overhead operation to begin with, so it was easy for us to adjust and get through it, and so we did. And then, you know, business for us really started taking off, so to speak, about a little over a year ago when entertainment opened back up, and then it's been kind of bonkers ever since. And just I don't think I've ever worked as hard in my entire life as I've been working the last year, simply because, you know, it just hit us like a tsunami. Suddenly everybody wanted, you know, entertainment type applications. They wanted drones, and it was just go, go, go. And we were so busy, you know, we didn't even have time to hire people because every day was like triage, just kind of keeping things running and whatnot. But things have improved on that front. You know, we're now at almost 20 people, up from like 6 people a year ago. And we see just so much opportunity in this space, and are really, you know, what we're trying to do is really build, you know, the basic operating system that allows people to control fleets of drones and entertainment applications without having to code themselves, and, you know, using tools that allow them to leverage their creativity without having to get technical, while doing it all in a safe manner. So, you know, the underlying technology and software that's required to develop that is not insignificant. That is our focus, and that's what we're about. And so for today, what I'll maybe do is I'll just play, if I can figure out how to share my screen, well, I will play a little highlight video that kind of shows some of the things that we do, and then maybe go through a few slides, and then we can just talk about drones or whatever you guys want to talk about.
All right.
That sounds perfect.
Go ahead and put any comments and questions into the chat also, because we'll monitor the chat.
Okay, so let's see. How do I share my screen?
So you have been made co-host, so you should have the link at the bottom where it says share screen.
Ah, you mean I press the button that says share screen? Is that how it works?
That's how it works.
Okay.
Highly technical.
Is that working?
Yes, it is.
See what's happening in the sky right now. There's drones dancing to what you hear on Q102, flown by our aerospace engineers at Verge Aero. This is so cool. That fireworks show, you know, nothing like that.
Okay.
That gives me goosebumps. That's so incredible. It's awesome.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
amazing.
That was so cool.
Yes.
So, any questions or things that spring to mind? Otherwise, I'm happy to go through like a few slides that outline our business. But if anybody has any questions about what you just saw,
Yeah, how do you do
or would
it?
like to start a discussion now, we can do that. Okay, go
How
for
do
it.
you do it?
Yeah, well, that is a seemingly simple question, but actually very complex. So the key to everything is flight planning software that allows people to use computers to calculate all the flight paths for each individual drone so that they don't collide, right? And so, what we try and do is make it easy for that to occur. So at this point, a user can, for example, import a graphic image and then import another one, or say, I want to select a circle from my grab bag of effects, and then have the drones transition through these movements, and the software does everything for you. And it's just like a video editor, it's like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. And then you press go and you download that show to the drones, and then the drones take off and they fly everything automatically. So, I mean, that's basically how it works. In order to achieve that, you got to build drones. You have to have good radio technology. You have to have an autopilot of some kind. And, there's clearly a lot of work that goes into making that simplicity happen.
So when I was looking at the website, it shows some of the technology behind and some of the software. When we're talking about that software side of things, it's just phenomenal to think that you're just programming it and it's going to go out and pull, like you just said, a circle or whatever movement that you're asking for.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, right? And so that's why, I mean, it took my engineers several years to be able to do this, and but it also is impressive in that, basically a team of 3 guys did everything themselves, and we were competing against Intel that had like millions and millions of dollars and like huge teams of engineers, and we've been able to do things better and more efficiently than what they did with their vastly superior resources. And so, my directive here with the guys has just been thinking long term. Let's just like get this right. Let's just make sure we create the right foundation for this technology moving forward. And what we learn along the way is there are just so many little things that become like gotchas, right? And there's so many things that can get in the way of successful execution, whether it's logistical stuff or whether it's things like magnetic interference in garages or roadways, or things that we might be working on that mess with the magnetometers, stuff like that. So, because we control all our technology, we can continue to adapt and add features and get things perfect for all these different scenarios that one encounters along the way.
Different drones than say Intel would? Is that one way that you control all your technology?
What was the first part of the question? Sorry.
I said, do you use different drones than say a company like Intel would?
Oh yeah, well, we made our own drones. I mean, like you
Okay.
can't go out. I mean, you can sort of today. There are companies out of Korea and China that'll sell like a drone show drone, and then you can combine it with some other software. So that's what really most of our competitors are doing. But no, when we got started, like there was no drone available for sale. And even today, we have pretty specific requirements about things we do with our radio technology that gives greater security and reliability. Our philosophy on this is very Apple Mac-esque, right? We want full control over our hardware and software and keep it tightly integrated, because we think that gives the best overall user experience, as well as being the safest way to do things, because we can have greater redundancy and we can just make sure that everything is done, the way we want it to be.
Awesome. We have a few questions that have popped up into our chat. If you want to, we can kind of go through some of those before we see those excellent pictures you were talking about. But Sheila would like to know about how many pilots and VOs do you use for your show? Does it depend on the amount of drones that you're using to utilize your staff for each show?
Yeah, so 1 pilot per show, and we do 1 VO per 250 drones. And usually, I mean, at a minimum, I want to have 2 VOs so they can be looking in different directions and cover the entire airspace while the pilot's focused on other things. And then we scale up accordingly as the size of the show increases. I mean, there's some situations where you might need more VOs. I mean, there's a difference between, you know, flying a show in a field in the middle of nowhere and flying, say, in an urban environment where there are lots of obstacles and lots of potential for mayhem, right? So it really, it's very situationally dependent. And yeah, we usually travel with our team. At a minimum, I'll send out 2 people, a technician and a pilot. And from there, most of the rest of the labor that's required is just like stagehands. We need people to like move the drones around, charge batteries, that kind of thing. And we try and source those people locally just to, you know, save on costs so they don't have to travel and that kind of thing.
I would imagine interference is a huge obstacle.
There are many obstacles. I mean, interference, I mean, yeah, I mean, we early on decided to develop our own radio technology to minimize the chances of interference. So most people doing drone shows are operating in the Wi-Fi part of the spectrum, which is just an awful place to be because it's really crowded and lots of interference, and particularly at like music festivals and things, it's a very, very noisy part of the spectrum. So we operate well outside of that to ensure that we have greater reliability and we can always communicate with the drones. But you know, the downside to that is it cost us a lot of R&D time up front. It was really, really painful making that ourselves, and we could have taken a shortcut, but we would have had not as good a long-term solution as what we have today.
Awesome. So there's a couple more questions that have popped up here. If you want, we can continue that direction.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there one main control panel to launch the drones for the shows?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's software on a computer. So literally you press the go button and it all goes.
So one of the questions.
Okay, go ahead. No, so go
One
ahead.
of the questions that I've always wanted to ask is, so according to the FAA, we can control one drone at a time as a RPIC. So have you applied for a waiver to go through this process of flying more than one drone?
Oh yeah. I mean, we couldn't do what we do without a waiver for sure. And then you know, we've had waivers since they first started being issued around 5 years ago. So every few years we have to renew, and now you know, we're helping other companies get waivers. You know, we sell our systems to other people who want to learn how to fly shows on their own, and we assist them with the waiver process. So yeah, that's absolutely essential. And then, you know, some places, you know, we fly in restricted airspace and we need additional authorization, or fly in, you know, TFRs. You know, we had to do that for obviously for Biden and some other things, right? So we've become very, very familiar with the FAA process, but fortunately they're good to work with, and we've had a really good relationship with them, and they've been super responsive.
Awesome. So it does look like we still have more questions that are popping up into our chat. If we want to run through those really quick, like, we can still do that. Looks like Johnny asked about the drone shows. Are they Windows based or Linux?
So we run on Windows, and then use a variety of software tools. In addition to that, we use Unity, which is a gaming engine, to do our visualization, and we're able to leverage those tools.
Awesome. And Jennifer asked about what's the largest show you have done, and how many drones was that?
We flew 600 drones at a music festival called Electric Daisy Carnival. That was in Las Vegas last year. And we're gearing up to do 1,200 later this year at another festival. So, I mean, the system's been designed to be scalable. So doesn't really matter how many drones we do. from a technical point of view. It's more the cost and the logistics and everything. And so, I mean, it's been interesting. Over in China, there's been, and in the Middle East as well, there's been a lot of emphasis on, setting Guinness World Records and having like 3,000 drones and 5,000 drones, and like, the more drones, the merrier. But our approach was a little bit different. We really wanted to focus on using a smaller number of drones, but making them bright and making them really precise in terms of how they hold their position, and go that route to perfect our technology and then scale up from there. And I in some ways we had no choice, simply because we were very resource constrained in the beginning of this process. But it really forced us to focus on the technology and make it work really well. So now, generally speaking, perfect shows are what we achieve and what we that's the goal that we work towards. We just flew last night in Minneapolis and had another perfect show, so it's like woohoo. So it's taken us a long time to actually get there, but now we're operating really well on that basis. And in the beginning, like Intel, they didn't have good positioning technology, and their drones weren't very bright, so they, in addition to those technical reasons as well as marketing reasons, they were really pushing like big numbers of drones. And they would fill volumes of space instead of just drawing lines with drones. And with our approach, you don't need as many drones, and hence we took things in a more measured way.
Let's take a look at your slides that you have. Let's take a break and give you a break from the questions, and because we're gonna have more questions, I'm sure.
Okay. Okay, so let's see, we've already talked about some of this. These are slides that I put together to kind of explain the business to other people. And I mean, at a real overview level, what we're about is catalyzing this new industry. It didn't exist a few years ago. It's still quite nascent. I think we are in the Model T era of drone shows, drone technology in general. There is a long way to go. There is so much potential. And, our goal is to really become like the go-to operating system for people who want to do this stuff. And, we're kind of there today. We're having a lot of people who are interested in getting involved, and we're setting them up as independent operators. And with, a little bit of training, they can become self-sufficient. And that's kind of what we're all about. Although that being said, it's funny, we are both, at the moment, we're both a technology company and a production company, but we really longer term see ourselves much more as a technology company. That's what we want to do. But we really had no choice but to become a production company, because, well, there was nobody to sell to, and this industry didn't exist. So we just kind of had to go out there and do it ourselves. And actually, it turned out to be quite useful, because number one, it helped us make money and get through, the tough times. But two, it forced my engineers to go out in the field and actually operate these shows themselves. And by doing so, they became much better engineers, and they really understood the problems that face our users, and it allows them to develop much better tools for our user group. Here you can see some of the people we've flown for. So we're getting pretty good traction at this point. Lots of different events of all kinds. Most of our business is really a combination of these kind of entertainment events, and then marketing for companies one way or another, different kinds of product launches. They want interesting footage for sharing in social media, things like that. And this is maybe, I think, the most interesting slide for this group. And it highlights all the aspects to what we do in our ecosystem. And I think this is really important. And we really are the only people out there who are focused on solving the problem this way and thinking about it this way. it's not just, and a lot of people say, oh yeah, the Chinese are just going to come in and sell cheap drones and, put you out of business, right? Like they've destroyed so many other hardware businesses, right? It's just really hard to compete on that basis. But the reality is that there's so much more that goes into actually putting on a show. And so it's the software that wraps around it. It's the regulatory support piece. It's all the different parts of the hardware. It's the services that support our clients with show design assistance, technical support, all this kind of stuff. So all these things together are what's necessary to deliver on this vision of having drone shows everywhere and building up this community of companies that can go out and do shows all across the world on their own. So that's maybe enough slides for now. Why don't we go back to questions and talking? It's maybe more
Can you
interesting.
tell us how you got on America's Got Talent? Can you tell us that journey?
Oh, well, it's all my charming personality and good looks, No, they chased up originally about a year ago for the standard version of America's Got Talent that's broadcast in the summer. And we turned them down because they film it in Pasadena, and they were just going to have us fly outside in the city plaza there. And it was really constrained and very hard for us to execute on in a way that I thought would be compelling. And so I told them, well, at some point down the road, we'll have indoor drone technology and we'll go on your show then. And then they decided to do a version of America's Got Talent called Extreme, where they assembled all of the acts that don't fit on a regular stage, and they put them outside at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and lots of things, lots of death-defying acts, like motorcycles and cages and jumping over people, and escape artists of all kinds, and all kinds of silly stuff with lots of spandex and sequins and explosions and mayhem and whatnot. So they call us up, and I kind of tentatively say yes, and then my engineers actually rebel, even though they had said yes. And they're like, we're not doing that. There's too much paperwork, and you're always saying focus, focus, focus. This is not, this is not focusing. But eventually I convinced them that's probably good marketing for the business, and they relented. And we went down there not really knowing what to expect. And I was a bit nervous about Simon Cowell, given what I remember from American Idol and whatnot. And so we felt like, the misfit toys down there, because there were no sequins and no spandex, and there was nothing death-defying about what we were doing. But fortunately, Simon really liked it, and we got the golden buzzer, and the marketing power and validating power of Simon Cowell is really just mind-boggling. So it's been a really good experience for us.
I watched that video and they were amazed. It was amazing. And if you guys would have wore spandex and sparkly, you'd be on another planet by now. That would have taken it to the
it's
top.
funny. They kept on. They took us into wardrobe, okay, and then they're like starting to dress us up and stuff, And my engineer Anthony's like, I'm not wearing that. I just want to wear my Verge T-shirt, And he's there in his ripped jeans and stuff. And eventually, they're taking pictures and sending it off to the producers. And eventually, I think the producers realized that sort of like the drone nerd angle was going to make for the best TV. So they relented. But I'll never forget Simon's face as we walk out on stage and we're in shorts and ripped jeans and whatnot. And he takes one look at us, and he was not super impressed at first glance.
I remember seeing that look on his face. I totally agree, because it was great. But that's awesome. What a great, you would have never imagined doing something like that, correct?
No, that was not in my life plan.
Right? So as a serial entrepreneur, what is something that has surprised you the most in this industry and in taking this new, entrepreneur experience? Like, what are some takeaways that you've had about it? Because you've done several other things, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, so certainly one surprise was that whole America's Got Talent experience. That was really weird because, I mean, I've worked on productions for like 3 decades on and off, but I've always been behind the scenes. I've never been in front of the camera. And so to actually be put in front of the camera and be, be the talent, I mean, that was very different and very weird. I mean, the other thing that's kind of like that's really interesting is that the reception we've received some places is mind-boggling. The ability of a well-executed drone show to elicit emotion in the right setting is insane. And I never really expected that. I mean, I've had like people crying on my shoulder and people kind of rushing up afterwards, like with all kinds of emotions. And, and sometimes we're treated like, I mean, truly like rock stars, people are just blown away. And, I think that will dissipate over time as the technology becomes more widespread and people are used to seeing it. But some of the reactions we've had that way have been incredible, and I don't think I anticipated that when we started.
That's really cool, because I feel maybe obviously not at the level that you've been, because we're not doing big shows like you are, but I mean, we all can, if we're out flying drones, we can all relate to that, because when we first got started, or even now, it's like you said, we're still in the Model T era. Very well said. And when you were talking about that, I mean, I'm looking like, oh my gosh, you got to go to the Jonas Brothers, like all these different, shows that you got to do, but yet, you're just as big at your company, and your what you do is just as big of an emotion as that, because it shows possibilities. So I just think that's really awesome. Okay, I'm going to get back to some questions here. We have
Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
Hey, this is Amy. You were talking about like all the emotion and everything, and you guys incorporate music into your shows.
Yeah, no, we normally do.
Yeah. So how do you go about incorporating the music and trying to find kind of the vibe of what's going on?
Yeah, well, it depends on the event. And for sure, adding music to a drone show makes it that much more impactful. And frankly, the more elements one adds, the more impactful it is in general, like using searchlights, okay, as part of the presentation, to help take it to a next level. We've also flown together with fireworks, okay, where, that's complementing what we do. So, the more the merrier from my point of view. And then in terms of the musical selection, well, I mean, it really depends on, the kind of mood you're trying to strike. So it's highly variable, but obviously one wants to make it appropriate and relevant to that particular event.
Are there copyright issues that you would address when planning a show like this?
Well, I mean, you need to make sure that you have the rights to use whatever graphic images are displayed in the show. And if it's going to be, if it's being broadcast afterwards, right? Any audio that's included, you have to have clearance for that.
So I see a lot of questions in our chat popping up about the expansion and pricing and such like that. I think you've really inspired a lot of our participants here today. And so they're wondering about the pricing involved and the possibilities for expansion and hosting shows like this.
Yeah, so we can talk about show pricing and system pricing. Today, especially given what's happening with supply chain, like building stuff is a freaking nightmare, okay? I mean, we have lead times of 52 weeks on certain pieces of silicon. It is extremely challenging and expensive to make electronics in today's world, right? I mean, including like the auto companies, right? Last year, there was like millions of cars that didn't get produced because they were missing chips and whatnot. So we face those same challenges. So, you know, our current drone, with the surcharges that we've had to add on to get things on the secondary market, is a little over $2,000 per drone, like $2,200 a drone. So, you know, if you want a system that's say 150 drones, which is I think probably the minimum to have enough pixels to do a reasonable number of things, you know, 150 to 300, I would say, is the sweet spot for drone shows today. So then you're looking, you know, $300,000-$400,000 of investment in that system. To fly a show, you know, our pricing ranges between $300 to $500 a drone to like go fly a show, and that take care of everything, including, you know, the transportation, logistics, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, 100 drone show might be $30,000 to $50,000, kind of all depending on what's going on. So, you know, the business is actually pretty lucrative that way. It doesn't take that many shows to earn your money back, but you know, my personal goal is to bring these costs down. And so we have a new drone we're working on that's more cost effective to produce, that we'll be releasing next year. And ultimately, I think for this business to really explode in size, you know, you want to get down to like $100 to $200 a drone per show. And at that point, you're in striking range of, you know, what fireworks shows cost otherwise. And with a lower capital investment with this new drone, then that'll be totally, you know, possible.
It looks like Greg has a question in here about drone fails. What do you do to fill the gap?
You don't.
You don't. You hope
One
it
day,
does.
you know, one day, right, we will have an automated system that detects a drone failure and then slots in a new one. But that's not where we are today. That hasn't been, we have other problems we need to solve first before we get to that one. And I would say that one thing that's been kind of interesting, sort of going back to the earlier question, is that the bar for drone shows is still quite low. In other words, you know, the way I like to put it is, it reminds me of when I watched Toy Story for the first time when it was released. And I still remember going to the cinema, and just like the first 15 minutes, I was just gobsmacked and stunned, you know, watching this, because I was so blown away that it was all computer generated, and that was possible, that they could actually make an entire movie that was computer generated. And it's a similar state of mind with people watching drone shows, because there's still not that many people who've seen shows. At most shows, people haven't seen it before, and they're just kind of amazed by the experience. And so they're very forgiving of like drones that go missing, and, you know, any incidents and problems and stuff like that. And in our early days, you know, there were some shows where I was just like horribly embarrassed because, you know, we had like technical snafu, and, you know, maybe we had like, I don't know, 5% of our drones that like didn't get included. And so there are like gaps in the images and that kind of thing. And afterwards, the client is still super excited and happy. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed to have flown this show. So, I mean, that's still the general state of the world in my experience, but I think this will change. I think the bar is going to go up, and people's expectations are going to be more that like every show is perfect. And, you know, I think that transition will happen over the next few years.
How many people can relate to that, right? Doing something with drones and it, you know, totally be like, oh, that did not work, but yet the client was still so happy. Like, yay, so thankful we got in when we did, right? Everybody, high five, woo!
Mm-hmm.
We have a question here. How do you do, have you done any indoor drone shows?
No, we will do indoor one day, but the localization technology required is completely different. GPS doesn't work indoors. And so one has to develop all of that separately. And the reality is that no single localization system is sufficiently robust to work in all the likely scenarios one will encounter. And so you need kind of multiple layers of technology there. So it's a pretty big undertaking, and one day we'll get to it, but for now we've really just been focused on the outdoor piece and just getting that right.
Right, and then Amy asked, do you have a favorite show or graphic you have done? One you're super proud of?
Actually, yeah, well, probably what we did for America's Got Talent, because I first flew, I had this concept running in my head for a long time of circles and making things immersive and changing the point of view, right? And so most drone shows have been designed to be sort of viewed at a distance. There's this graphic in the distance that, moves and changes shape. And a lot of the early drone shows are what I call marching band shows, which, again, at the time are really exciting because people are just amazed. But as time goes on, they're not very dynamic and they're kind of boring. And I think people become less interested in them. Just the notion of, image A, transition to image B, transition to image C, right? That gets boring over time. And so now we really focus on making the shows much more dynamic. And likewise, so then this content that we developed ultimately for America's Got Talent had its origins in a gag I did when we were doing some testing in Dubai. We created like a tunnel of drones and then drove a Jeep through it and these concentric circles down an airstrip. And that was actually an homage to an art project from Burning Man called Sonic Runway, where they create these hoops that go down the desert, and then the lighting reflects the speed of sound, and they have music playing that chases through these circles. And so then I took that and I adapted that to the sky and created this kaleidoscopic effect, and that was optimized specifically for the location where the judges of America's Got Talent were seated. And so it became this really cool kind of kaleidoscopic look of circles moving around and morphing and things. And so that was very impactful. So that probably would be my favorite piece of content.
I've seen those, and you're absolutely right. They're stunning when they morph like that. Definitely, I can see exactly what you're saying. So, you've obviously traveled all over the place. Like, what is, like, if you're going to Dubai or you're going someplace else, what is the prep time on something like that? I mean, you obviously, you don't fly over there, check out the scene, and then come back home and put together something, right?
No, I mean, most of the prep time is creating the shows. And so that's all done on computer. Everything is rendered in advance. We have pre-visualization tools. So, I mean, we know exactly what we're going to get before we arrive on site. So, the on-site process is pretty straightforward. The most time-consuming thing is charging batteries, and then you just lay out the drones, load the show, and fly. But depending on the complexity of the show itself, a lot of time will go into actually creating, that content that's ultimately flown. I
can't imagine how many battery chargers you must have.
We have a lot. I'm really sick of battery chargers. It's very tedious and painful.
How long does a battery usually last?
A battery can last 15 to 20 minutes. And then we try and limit our shows to like 10, 12 minutes at the most, just to have a lot of spare capacity for safety.
And then also you mentioned earlier about different, sorry, Kim.
That's okay.
You had mentioned earlier about the lighting. You had upgraded or new battery or lighting technology that you were utilizing.
Yeah, we have a new light source that we're going to test out actually at Burning Man in a few weeks. Otherwise, our lighting on the drones themselves has been pretty much the same, although we increased the output at one point just to make them super bright. Um, we are also going to fly with searchlights at Burning Man, and we've done that a couple of times before. And just having color changing lighting on the ground that goes up in the sky and that meets the drones and the two work together is a really compelling visual dynamic.
So what are some shows that you have coming up? What are some that you're stoked about? But yeah, I know it's work, right? Even though you love, people say if you
Well,
work.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited about Burning Man. I mean, Burning Man is this incredible explosion of creativity in the desert, and we are treating it as sort of like our like an R&D lab where we're trying out a lot of different ideas. And one of the issues that I find with drones so far is that people, including like a lot of very creative designers, have not yet fully wrapped their head around what is possible. And so what we're really trying to do at Burning Man is give people some ideas of what's possible. So hence the searchlights, hence these additional lighting fixtures on the drones, hence all this other stuff that we're doing. We're creating a cage so that people can view the show from inside the swarm, and we're like going to swarm around. And so we are really just wanting to push the envelope and see what works and see what doesn't, and try and seed ideas into the community. And it's like, okay, let's take this next level and show people what's possible. So that has become a bit of a monster and a giant time suck, because doing something at Burning Man is like 10 times more difficult than doing it anywhere else, because there's no infrastructure and you got dust blowing everywhere, and it's a bit of a nightmare that way. But the setting is like perfect for flying drones, because the sand or dust that's there, it's this white color, so it takes the light from the drones, and then you have the mountains in the background, and it's just desolate otherwise. It's really beautiful. So that's my main push right now. And then, otherwise we have all kinds of different bits and pieces, flying for like some big festivals, and flying for like Rice University in October, and some corporate clients, and just all kinds of different bits and pieces.
So how can we volunteer to be VOs for that Las Vegas gig? That sounds awesome. Like any of us, just let us know, Niles, because we are like, we want to be part of that. That sounds just the imagination, your creativity is so inspiring. I love it. Your brain is just going in that creativity. Where do you see your company, and where do you see you? Because I know you have some big ass dreams. Like in the next 5 years, like is there something that you are looking to achieve? Do you want to get to a point where you're just training people and everybody's out doing the work? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years in this industry?
Yeah, well, it's one thing that's really interesting with this business is that we've had a very clear vision from the beginning of what we want to achieve, and it's pretty simple. It's like, we just want to see drone shows everywhere, okay? And it's like, how do we make that happen? Okay, the way you make that happen is you have to make the technology robust and easy to use, okay? It's a simple statement. Obviously, it's a lot goes into doing that. That's really hard, but fundamentally, that's what's required. And so, a lot of businesses, a lot of startups, they have pivots, right? They get started and they pivot. Like, well, we haven't had any pivots. Like, our initial vision has been pretty much spot on. And you know what? That's going to keep us busy for the next 5 years. Okay. So it's all just about execution and just going down this path and going from, like a handful of shows to like a few more shows to a lot of shows to a ton of shows, and just have our technology all over the place with hundreds or thousands of companies using it around the world, right? So that's the vision. Exactly how big this market is, I mean, I have no idea, right? But I think it's plenty big enough to keep us busy, because people really like drone shows, like what we're doing. They like working with us, and for us, it's about, also just making sure that we give people a good, customer service experience, right? I have to kind of pound this into the heads of my engineers, who've been spending too much time in the basement over the course of their careers building drones and at the university and everything, and they kind of like don't get it. But that's really, really important. We want to give our users a good experience and empower them to do cool stuff. And so my vision for 5 years is just executing on that, right? We just got to keep going and just do the right thing. And then I think everything else will take care of itself.
Absolutely. That's so interesting that you say that, because, some companies did pivot drone companies did pivot during, COVID in our 2 years that we went through, and then some didn't. I was one of them that didn't. Like yourself, I didn't pivot, but I know other people that did. So that's just a very interesting statement, because you got to know where you are. So, oh yeah, you put you're in Park City. We see a little, is that snow on those caps back there?
No snow. It's
Looks like a ski resort.
it is. That's Park City.
Okay.
And there's Deer Valley, the big one
Oh,
behind.
there we are. What a great space. We love it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a nice part
Yeah,
of the
totally. Well, Nils, we're gonna wrap it up, and we thank you so much. That was, come on, hands for Nils. That was a wonderful,
Thank you.
also inspired. And even though we're drone pilots and we get to fly drones every day, you brought our emotions up. When those light shows, I got goose pimples. It was just so wonderful, right, everybody? It was so awesome. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your vision and your business with us. We really appreciate it. Desi, anything you'd like to add?
I just want to say thank you very much, because it was just phenomenal. Love seeing what you're doing, and can't wait to see it more, because I truly feel that doing the drone light shows, that is the future. We will be seeing more of it, and it's exciting. So very, very excited to have you on our show here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And then information, what kind of information would you like any of us to know about you? Like, contact or website, or is there anything in particular that
Well,
you?
here, I'll put the website in. I'm just Nils if anybody wants to get a hold of me. And this is the website for our art project. So we're doing Burning Man as part of an art project, okay? Because you can't be commercial, okay? And we've even had to change the name. It was Convergence. And then they figured out, oh, there's a Verge in the middle of Convergence. You need to change your name, which was just coincidence. So we're now Confluence, but the website is still convergence.art, okay? So you can check it out if you're curious to see what we're doing.
Oh, that'll be exciting. I know so many people that have actually been to Burning Man. I have never been. Maybe this is the year I go.
Hey,
And one
come
last
one, come
thing.
all. Yeah, if anybody wants to go, I don't have any tickets. Tickets are really hard to come by, but if you're really interested in going, there are ways to get tickets. You just gotta keep searching. It's a really cool thing. It is, I think Burning Man has something for everyone, except for people who hate dust. If you can't deal with dust, do not go, because there is no escape from the dust. But otherwise, it's got the whole spectrum. It has the ravers who are up all night and party until dawn. And then you have the people at dawn meditating to the sunrise, and everything in between. It is this temporary city with every kind of person and every kind of weirdness and every kind of everything. It's a crazy place, but like I said earlier, it is this amazing explosion of creativity. The stuff that people put out there, the art cars, all the funky stuff. It's a really interesting place to explore.
Welcome to Vegas, baby, right?
That's right.
Totally. And then also, do you have did you put your email in there?
Yeah, it's just Nils at Verge. Okay, I put it Nils
Okay.
at.
Yeah, because a couple of people ask if you're hiring. So
Yeah, we just did a big hiring push, but I mean, we're always looking for people. So I maybe just have to digest what I've taken on, because literally we have gone from 6 to 18 or whatever it is now, like in the span of about 6 months. So, but we're always looking for pilots, show designers, stuff like that, for sure.
Awesome, great. Well, thank you so much. Anything else, Desi?
No, we're good to go. We
That was
just,
great. Did you enjoy talking with us, Nils?
Of course, yeah, this is super fun. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Okay, everybody, have a great week, and reach out to Nils if you want to know more, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much, Nils.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
all right. Bye.
Thank you. It's
Bye,
amazing.
have a great week.
That kind of wraps it up.